The Thing has arrived, and he's just as much of a bruiser as you'd expect, and I guarantee almost everyone will start off playing him wrong. My name is Kodiak, this is Legacy Gaming, and here's how to master the newest hero in Marvel Rivals, Ben Grimm, also known as The Thing. Myself and Livid were lucky enough to go hands-on with The Thing and Human Torch a few days ahead of the Midpoint Season 1.5 launch, and we wanted to make sure you got off to a fast start when the update goes live for everyone on February 21st. Accurate to his comic book character, The Thing is an absolute unit, and for all intents and purposes, his kit is relatively simple and straightforward. If you like punching things, and I mean really punching things, then The Thing might be for you. I'm not gonna lie and say his kit is super deep with tons of nuance, because it's not. He's a legit one-star hero with a moveset that's easy to grasp, but that doesn't mean it's easy to master. With that in mind, let's dive in and really pick apart every one of The Thing's abilities. We'll start with The Thing's passive, Unyielding Wall. This makes the hero immune to launch up, knockbacks, and other displacement effects. In short, you can't move The Thing, and that's important to remember when you consider heroes like the Invisible Woman have important knockbacks that can save them from the rush of an oncoming attacker. That's not going to be the case with The Thing, and as you'll find out, the name of the game here is pressure and keeping it applied at all times. The Thing's left click is Rocky Jab, a quick, short-range punch that deals low damage. While its range is only about 3 meters long, you can continuously punch, pumping damage into enemies if you manage to stay in range. This one is pretty straightforward, so don't overthink it. The Thing's right click is Stone Haymaker, and this is where the kit starts to get a bit interesting. On paper, it's just another punch, but a few things happening with this ability are worth pointing out. For starters, it's got a bit of a wind-up time, and thus, you have to anticipate when the punch is actually going to happen, and of course track the enemy you're trying to punch during that entire ramp-up period. The Stone Haymaker also has extended range, around 10 meters, and I'd go so far as to say it has decent range for a melee ability. You can hit enemies that are a few meters away, and even flying heroes that are hovering a bit too close to the ground. This is important to remember as enemy heroes are constantly moving in and out of range, but this ability gives you more flexibility. The Stone Haymaker also has Pierce, allowing you to hit multiple targets in a line. Talk about some serious damage. If you manage to stack up enemies at a choke point, you can lay into them with this one ability. Finally, it has no cooldown. Just like Rocky Jab, you can string multiple Stone Haymakers together depending on the situation you find yourself in. During my time with The Thing during the early release, I found myself bouncing between both the Rocky Jab and Stone Haymaker. If I was applying pressure to an enemy healer, I used left click, opting to pump constant damage into them as I stayed up in their face. However, if an enemy hero managed to slip outside of the incredibly tight melee range of Rocky Jab, I would immediately switch to Stone Haymaker, which allowed me to continue my assault. Your goal should be constant pressure, but enemy heroes have more than enough mobility to exploit the short range of your Rocky Jab, which is why being fluid between both abilities is critical to your success. The Thing's left shift ability is Yancey Street Charge, which might be the most interesting ability in his entire kit. When used, the Thing will charge forward, gaining a small temporary shield and damaging enemies and knocking them up. Using the left and right arrows, you can control which direction the Thing moves, and while it's not exactly easy to control, you get the hang of it rather quickly. This is not a precise movement ability. You can't turn on a dime, and some of the tighter maps make this more challenging to use, but as always, practice makes perfect. The key here is what happens at the end of the charge. When the time expires, or you manually end the ability early, a small earthquake zone will erupt around the Thing and linger for a few seconds. While in the zone, enemies can't use mobility skills. Think about that for a second. If you dive a healer, most will immediately try and escape using their mobility to create some distance between you and them. If that's not possible, then they have to proactively get outside of the zone, and then and only then can they use that mobility skill. It doesn't lock down a healer for long, but rather changes their normal behaviors, and that is disruptive. The charge also lasts for a solid 5 seconds, and if you're accurate, you can really disrupt an entire enemy team. However, as with most charge abilities, you have to be careful not to overcommit. That is a cardinal sin of any frontline or tank style character. There's no question Yancey Street Charge is meant to be an engagement ability, but you better be confident that you can survive the dive, or at least cause enough chaos during that moment that the enemy team is completely distracted on you, giving your team an opportunity to kill enemy heroes. Unlike most Vanguards, the Thing doesn't actually have any sustaining shielding capabilities. It's actually a bit odd given how common it is on other tank heroes. Instead, he has access to Embattled Leap, a 2-charge ability that allows the Thing to jump towards an ally, applying damage reduction to both you and the hero you jump to. This is a fascinating ability, and it really has 3 core uses. The first is simply to escape the fray of combat. If you end up too deep with Yancey Street Charge, you can easily find a duelist or support and jump out of the action and back towards safer ground. The second use is more nuanced, and that's because it can be used to strategically buff an ally with damage reduction. The 2 charges is really the key here. So long as you maintain at least 1 charge for an emergency escape, you should constantly leverage that second charge to help reduce the overall damage your team takes. It's not as pronounced as a Doctor Strange shield, but you're providing the same benefit, reducing the overall damage your teammates are taking. Keep an eye out for allies that are being pressured, especially support. This is the perfect opportunity to leap to their side, buff them, and draw the aggro away from their aggressor. The third and honestly most fun use case is using Embattled Leap to quickly double team an enemy hero. If you see one of your melee Vanguard or duelist heroes attempting to kill an enemy hero, you can quickly turn a 1v1 into a 2v1 by leaping to their side, immediately changing that dynamic. In most cases, that enemy hero is going to panic and try and retreat, or potentially even panic ult. Again, the name of the game is pressure, and you can do that in so many different ways, even with Embattled Leap, which presents itself more as a utility skill. Finally, there's the Thing's ultimate ability, Clobbering Time. And yes, they nailed the voice line. It's clobbering time! When used, the Thing slams into the ground, sending out a large shockwave in front of him, dealing damage and knocking up any enemies hit. Enemies that are hit are also temporarily stunned once they land. This has a decent range, right around 15 meters, but I wouldn't consider it a long-ranged attack by any stretch. The key here is maximum disruption, finding the perfect opportunity to hit multiple targets in a straight line, knocking them up and essentially taking them out of the fight for a few seconds. That window is really all your team should need to pick off at least one, if not more, enemy heroes. I think it's important to point out that this is not meant to be some crazy offensive ability. Yes, it deals some damage, but it's more about the overall disruption to an enemy team more than anything else. You can easily finish off an enemy with Clobbering Time in combination with your other abilities, but the goal should be disruption, knocking up and stunning as many enemy heroes as possible during key moments. Chaining this together with Yancey Street Charge is also insufferable if you're on the receiving end of the attack, so keep that in mind whenever the ability is charged up. The Thing also has 2 team-up abilities. First is Cosmic Fastball, which allows him to throw the Wolverine. This is identical to the Hulk's team-up with Wolverine. Second is Cooperative Comrades, a team-up with the Invisible Woman. This one is of note because it provides the Thing with another active ability that allows him to regain bonus health, even providing a shield if his health is maxed out. I mentioned that the Thing doesn't have any real shields. Well, there you go. Sue Storm provides for her Fantastic Four teammate. Currently, the Invisible Woman has one of the highest pick rates in the game, so there is a good chance you'll see this team up active more often than not, which is a great thing if you're planning on maining the Thing. Now, understanding a hero's move is one thing. Putting that into practice is another thing entirely. Luckily, the Thing isn't that challenging to grasp, and you might have picked up on this before, but his entire kit is designed around pressure. Don't overthink what's so clearly the game plan with the Thing. When possible, you want to use Yancey Street Charge to engage with the enemy team, often pushing as far back as you can to reach the much squishier backline heroes. You're not exactly hiding your intentions as this character, and that's okay because you always have a way to escape the carnage using your Embattled Leap to jump to an ally hero on the outskirts. Just that quick departure alone is going to take a second for the enemy team to adjust to, but you have to know when you're in over your head. The single biggest mistake most Thing players are going to make, as is the case with most new tank heroes, is believing they're invulnerable, and that's simply never going to be the case. The Thing has no real shielding, so your 700 HP is all you have to protect yourself. You'll learn quickly how deep you can push and how long you can actually stay in that hot zone. That's going to be dependent on your healers, of course, but while you're there The goal should be to cause as much backline chaos as possible, smacking healers with both your left and right click, forcing them to deal with you rather than heal their allies. Remember, you can use a charge of Embattled Leap to guard other ally heroes, even other Vanguard, and never forget that you can use it to change a 1v1 to a 2v1 in an instant. It's the most versatile ability the thing has at its disposal, but unless you use it, it'll sit there on cooldown wasting away. Distract, Disrupt, and Damage. Those 3 Ds will be your guiding principles when playing this hero, and if you can master all 3, you'll quickly see how powerful the thing truly is. So there you have it, everything you need to know to master the thing. We'll continue this series with the Human Torch, and of course, if you haven't checked out our Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman guides, you can check those out as they've already been released on the channel. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.